Special Squad, Captain? Fong Mo clearly hadn't considered this possibility and couldn't react for a moment. Of course, establishing a special squad is much more complicated than you think, even if it's just a reserve team. Lin Chia slowly said, "If you have this idea, I can contact Commander Zhou for you and see what he decides." Fong Mo and Li Jinjin exchanged glances, and after a moment, looked hesitantly at Chen Han. After all, they were members of Squad 006, and if they left to establish their own special squad, this team stationed in Beijing would be left with only 2 people. "If you want to do it, then go ahead." Chen Han smiled slightly. "However, before the next batch of recruits arrives, I might need your special squad reserve team to help me guard Beijing." Chen Han was very clear about Fong Mo and Li Jinjin's potential. Keeping them in Beijing would indeed be a waste of talent. As for the problem of insufficient personnel in the Beijing squad after they leave, since they're establishing a special squad reserve team anyway, it would be reasonable for them to bring their team members to help eliminate the mysteries in Beijing, right? This way, Fong Mo could lead the special squad reserve team to improve their strength in Beijing, while giving Squad 006 time to recruit new members, a win-win situation. Gratitude appeared in Fong Mo's eyes. After thanking Chen Han, he firmly said to Lin Chia, "Then I'll trouble Lord Chia. Chen and pass." A new special squad? Zhuqing put down the document in his hand and looked up in surprise. "That's what Captain Lin said in his message," Secretary Min Junliang replied. Zhuqing's expression was somewhat strange. While rubbing his chin, he slowly said, "Given Daxia's current situation, we do need a new special squad. Fong Mo has great potential, and Li Jinjin is also a divine agent. They're sufficient to form a reserve team, but..." "But what?" "But just half an hour ago, I also received a letter." Zhuqing took out a letter from the drawer and placed it on the table. This letter was sent by the night watchman squad stationed in Huaihai. They recommended Lu Baoyu to lead a new special squad, to provide fresh blood for Daxia. Min Junliang was stunned. What a coincidence, they clashed. Yes, even the application times were almost the same. I even suspect they might have coordinated this. I've also reviewed Lu Baoyu's file. Although he's Lucifer's agent, I heard he dared to ambush Lucifer directly to protect his teammates on the battlefield. He's decisive, ruthless, yet values friendship, a rare good seedling. In that case, why not just put these 2 groups together? Merge them into a new reserve team. That's what I was thinking too, but deciding whether Lu Baoyu or Fong Mo should be the captain of this special squad reserve team is difficult. Seeing Zhuqing's contemplative look, Min Junliang smiled. "Commander, you're overthinking this. Since it's a reserve team, whoever serves as captain is only temporary. Why not just assign someone as captain for now, and then decide on the final captain position based on their respective performances when the team becomes official?" "That's a good idea." Zhuqing raised his eyebrows. "Then let's make Fong Mo the reserve team captain first, and determine the actual captain position based on both their performances when the team becomes official. I'll reply to Captain Lin shortly." Min Junliang paused for a moment. "Besides this, Commander, there's new information from the Heavenly Court." "Go on." "The spiritual treasure Venerable severely wounded Lucifer and has returned to the Heavenly Court. Now the 3 Venerables seem to be preparing something and have entered the mist together." "Entered the mist?" Zhuqing frowned in thought. "All of them. All of them." Min Junliang seemed to understand Zhuqing's concern. "Commander, if you're worried about Olympus taking advantage of this situation to invade, your concerns are unnecessary. According to Daxia's deity, a great battle took place in Olympus yesterday. Zeus led the Greek gods to encircle and attack the wounded Brahma. Although they eventually killed him, Brahma's dying counterattack nearly destroyed half of Olympus. They're now severely weakened and simply cannot launch an offensive against Daxia." Hearing this, Zhuqing's expression relaxed. Zeus and Brahma had internal strife? That's somewhat unexpected, but it's certainly good news for Daxia. After Min Junliang finished his report and was about to leave, Zhuqing suddenly spoke as if remembering something. "By the way, hasn't Qingyu woken up?" Min Junliang was taken aback. "Not yet. Did Lin Chia mention anything unusual when he contacted you?" "Unusual? What aspect are you referring to, Commander?" "Nothing. I understand. You may go." Zhuqing waved his hand lightly. After Min Junliang left, he slowly leaned back in his chair and relaxed. Divine Mental Hospital. Basement. Whoosh. A flame ignited, and Lin Chia watched the contract on the ground gradually burn to ashes, his expression extremely solemn. Countless roars of giant beasts echoed in the dungeon, making one's eardrums ache. Lin Chia shifted his gaze to these beasts, lost in thought. The caretaker contract had failed again. In the battle at Chinan Pass, Lin Chia had used the Forbidden Spell Mountain to kill a large number of Indian mythological creatures. The souls of these creatures were all confined in the hospital dungeon, but whenever he tried to form caretaker contracts with these beasts, the contracts would spontaneously combust. So far, the hospital hadn't admitted any new caretakers for nearly half a year. Lin Chia even suspected that there was a problem with the hospital itself. But what the problem was he didn't know. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Chia still waved his hand to execute these beasts on the spot. Blood splattered throughout the cell, quickly being devoured completely, and the entire dungeon fell into dead silence. Lin Chia sighed and walked out of the dungeon. Just as he pushed open the director's office door, he saw a familiar figure standing in the corridor, gazing into the distance. Morning, Lin Chia walked up beside him. Gilgamesh nodded slightly without saying more. What are you looking at? Lin Chia followed his gaze and saw that on the top floor of the opposite ward, a figure in white was standing behind the wire fence, looking down, seemingly watching them too. Yuran still wore a benevolent smile on his face, looking down at Gilgamesh and Lin Chia as if watching his own children. The moment Lin Chia made eye contact with him, that voice like a spell seemed to appear in his ears again. You've done well, child. Nothing. Gilgamesh withdrew his gaze and said flatly, that old man's gaze makes the king very uncomfortable. That's just his condition, don't mind him. Lin Chia understood Gilgamesh's personality. He had always looked down on others. When had he ever been gazed upon so benevolently from above? If this had happened before, Gilgamesh would probably have already swung his sword. Lin Chia looked up at Gilgamesh's head, surprise appearing in his eyes. After returning from the king's treasury, Gilgamesh's root illness had been completely cured, with the progress bar steadily rising. After not seeing Gilgamesh for so long, the treatment progress had already soared to 89%. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before Gilgamesh could be discharged. Gilgamesh's gaze swept over Lin Chia as if discovering something and suddenly stared at him intently, his expression somewhat puzzled. What's wrong? You've also been to the ancestral god temple? How did you know? Lin Chia was startled. Your body carries the aura of those ancestral gods. Gilgamesh pondered for a moment, then spoke with some uncertainty. Is it the dark ancestor? Only then did Lin Chia remember that Gilgamesh had explored the ancestral god temple long ago. You've seen him too? No, I only sensed his aura in that stone array. Gilgamesh examined Lin Chia as if looking at something rare. Those ancestral gods actually gave you their power willingly? Why did this king walk around the stone array and encounter nothing? Lin Chia smiled awkwardly. By the way, how did you find the ancestral god temple? This king was searching for divine artifacts to fill the treasury, and led a fleet sailing at sea for months, accidentally discovering the ancestral god temple frozen in Antarctica. This king and his subordinates spent a full half-month melting the ice. However, after melting it, we found nothing inside, only the star coin rotating on the central divine platform, so this king brought it back. It seems those ancestral gods were guarding against this king. Gilgamesh snorted coldly, his expression somewhat displeased. Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly. From Gilgamesh's perspective, this was just a treasure hunt. But from the ancestral god's viewpoint, Gilgamesh was like a bandit who suddenly broke into their home, searched every corner for treasures, and when he found nothing, simply tore off the door and left. Antarctica. Antarctica again. Lin Chia muttered. If he remembered correctly, the source of the mist was Antarctica. Could there be a connection with the existence of the ancestral god temple? After chatting with Gilgamesh for a while, Lin Chia began walking around the hospital. The sunshine was pleasant, caregivers chatted and moved between the courtyards, and the aroma of food gradually spread to every corner. The entire hospital ran smoothly under Li Yifei's management, showing no signs of abnormality, as if only the dark cells underground had malfunctioned. Lin Chia sat in the courtyard all morning before withdrawing his consciousness from the hospital. Unlike yesterday's continuous autumn rain, today's weather in Beijing was quite nice. Lin Chia took advantage of the sunshine to leisurely stroll around the courtyard, then went to the room to check on Qingyu's condition. Whether it was his imagination or not, since coming here, Qingyu's sleeping expression seemed to have relaxed somewhat, with only his brows slightly furrowed as if pondering something. Does it seem like his complexion has improved? Chao Yuan stood beside Lin Chia, speaking uncertainly. It has indeed improved. Lin Chia's lips curved slightly upward. It seems changing the environment has worked well. What about lunch today? Order takeout. You decide. I need to visit Squad 006's station again. Chao Yuan clicked his tongue. Always going there for free meals, isn't that a bit much? This time it's not for a free meal, Lin Chia said leisurely. Today, Squad 006's station should be quite lively. Meanwhile, in the quadrangle courtyard, clatter. A pair of chopsticks fell to the ground as Fang Mo stared blankly at Lu Baozhu, who walked in from outside carrying bags frozen in place. This isn't right. I slept well last night, why am I having hallucinations? Fang Mo rubbed his eyes, blinked hard and looked again to find a pair of cold eyes staring at him. Lu Baozhu. Li Jinjin exclaimed in shock. Weren't you in Huaihai? Why did you come to Beijing? Lu Baozhu opened his mouth about to say something when a voice came from behind. Commanders was sent him here. Lin Chia patted Lu Baozhu's shoulder with a smile. Let me introduce you to your Special Squad Reserve's temporary vice-captain, Lu Baozhu. Hearing the words vice-captain, Lu Baozhu's mouth twitched violently, his expression growing more displeased. Fang Mo and Li Jinjin stood stunned for a while before realizing the implications of this statement. Commanders were agreed to form a new special squad? Lu Baozhu as vice-captain? Bang! Lu Baozhu threw his heavy luggage on the ground with his left hand and asked in a deep voice, which room is mine? Oh, the wing room on the left is empty, you can go there. Lin Chia, extremely familiar with the place, settled Lu Baozhu with just a few words. Under the gaze of Fang Mo and Li Jinjin, he walked into the room with a stern face. Before crossing the threshold, he glanced at Fang Mo, seemingly dissatisfied. Lord Seven Knights, what's going on? Fang Mo couldn't help asking once Lu Baozhu was inside. When your situation was reported, Lu Baozhu also happened to submit an application to form a reserve team, so commanders had you merge directly. Lin Chia explained slowly. However, since both you and Lu Baozhu applied to be captain, your performance before official confirmation will determine the final captain. Your current position as captain is only temporary. No wonder his eyes looked like he wanted to eat me, Fang Mo muttered. After Lu Baozhu finished unpacking, he came out. Seeing that all three were present, Lin Chia began speaking. I believe you already understand the basic situation. In short, the higher-ups have approved your team formation application, and you can now prioritize selecting people from the current Night Watchman roster to join your squad. Special squads have strict requirements for personnel numbers. Minimum 6 people, maximum 9. Once the number falls below 3, the squad will be forcibly disbanded. As for the conditions for official confirmation, they're not complicated. Besides the personnel requirements I just mentioned, the captain, that is you Fang Mo, must be at the peak of the Sea Realm and other members must also cross the Sea Realm threshold. Currently, all 3 of you should have met these conditions. The final 2 requirements are that you must have experienced defeating an immeasurable realm enemy while being at a lower level, and have received a collective merit of star level or above. Lin Chia was very familiar with these rules. After all, they had come through this process step by step from the beginning. Now that he was explaining the promotion rules to these juniors, it felt like a lifetime ago. After listening, Fang Mo fell into deep thought. Killing enemies above my level shouldn't be difficult. The most crucial parts are obtaining collective star merits and selecting other team members. The Su siblings are good choices, suddenly spoke Lu Baoyu, who had been silent until now. Everyone was surprised to see Lu Baoyu actively recommending candidates, considering he usually looked down on others. Suzhi and Su Yuan? Fang Mo's eyes brightened slightly. Suzhi's forbidden domain belongs to an ultra-high-risk sequence with extreme potential, though he's too lazy. Su Yuan's forbidden domain focuses on perception and support, yet she's excellent at solo combat and can even counter Suzhi. Those two are indeed good candidates. You can discuss the details among yourselves. Lin Chia had no intention of getting involved in their team formation. He was merely a guide. How they implemented things was up to them. Lin Chia looked around and asked with confusion, "Where's Chin Han?" "Captain Chen left about 10 minutes ago. Seems like some mysteries are acting up." Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. The new king had just established authority, and already some mysteries couldn't stay put? "All right, I understand." Lin Chia walked out of the courtyard, about to head straight back to his residence when he suddenly seemed to sense something. His gaze sharpened as he turned to look in a certain direction. Beijing City. Western suburban mountains. Chin Han, wearing a military coat with a straight sword at his waist, slowly walked up the rugged mountain path. Tall, dense forests obscured the sky, limiting visibility. Chin Han's brows furrowed as his gaze meticulously scanned the shadows of the trees, as if searching for something. Suddenly, his footsteps halted as he turned to look in a particular direction. He raised his hand and with a gentle gesture of his white-gloved finger toward the dense forest, a faint flame of life suddenly lit up among the trees. Beneath that flame, a massive four-legged mountain beast lay dying. Chin Han walked directly to the mystery and crouched down. What happened? This Klein-level mountain beast was among the first mysteries that Chin Han had intimidated. Though it had always existed in this wild mountain range, it feared Chin Han's strength and never harmed people, making it part of Beijing's special balance. But not long ago Chin Han sensed intense battle auras here, one from the beast before him and another. Chin Han couldn't identify it, but that scent instinctively repulsed him. The mountain beast howled in agony, with streams of blood flowing from hole-like wounds all over its body, as if it had been pierced by something. Its life flame was visibly extinguishing. In just over 10 seconds the mountain beast stopped breathing. Chin Han's frown deepened. He seemed to smell the disgusting aura left behind, accompanied by intermittent, faint roars. Those were the angry roars of other mysteries quietly lurking in Beijing. With the mountain beast's death, they seemed to sense approaching danger and were warning Chin Han, the new king. None wanted to be the next mountain beast. If Chin Han couldn't eliminate this threat, they would do so in their own way. Chin Han's face was extremely grim. He slowly stood up. "I want to see what creature dares to act so brazenly in Beijing." He snorted coldly and, following the scent on the ground, vanished in a blur. Lin Chia opened the door and casually placed several plastic bags on the table. "What did you buy?" Chow Yuan, watching TV on the sofa, asked curiously, seeing Lin Chia return with so many items. Lin Chia smiled. "Some braised dishes for dinner." "Finished with the 006 squad business?" "Yes, those kids have finally taken the same path we did." Lin Chia glanced at Qingyu's room. "How is he?" According to Jiang Er, his finger moved a little this afternoon. "She's watching him non-stop now." "Oh." Lin Chia's face lit up with surprise. "Is he about to wake up?" "Probably." Chow Yuan sighed. "Qingyu has been unconscious for so long, it's been hard on Jiang Er, caring for him day and night. If this guy doesn't take responsibility for her after waking up, it would be truly heartless. Qingyu isn't that cold-blooded." Lin Chia smiled, but then, as if remembering something, his smile gradually faded. "By the way, I don't know if it was my imagination, but when I was coming back just now I sensed a trace of K-system biological fluctuation." "What?" Chow Yuan's expression changed slightly. "Those things have infiltrated Beijing? That shouldn't be possible. Aren't the great Xia gods guarding the front lines?" "I thought it was strange too. That aura appeared only for an instant and quickly disappeared. I searched in the direction it came from but found nothing. I extended my mental perception but could only sense the mysteries all over Beijing, nothing unusual." Lin Chia paused, then sighed. "I hope I'm just being paranoid." Lin Chia and Chow Yuan tidied up briefly before starting dinner. With Qingyu still unconscious and Jiang Er not needing food, the two men simply ate a quick, simple meal. Notably, during their meal, Jiang Er excitedly floated out of the room, saying Qingyu had moved his finger again. Lin Chia and Chow Yuan immediately put down their chopsticks and went to the room to watch Qingyu's fingers for 5 or 6 minutes, but didn't witness another movement. The two could only sigh awkwardly and silently return to finish their remaining food. Just as Lin Chia finished dinner and was about to carry the bowls and chopsticks to the kitchen, a sudden sensation arose in his mind. It's back. Lin Chia sharply turned his head toward a certain direction, his eyes flashing with brilliance as overwhelming killing intent surged skyward. Cthulhu? Chow Yuan asked, seeing Lin Chia's intense reaction. Seems it wasn't an illusion. I'll go check it out. Lin Chia shoved all the bowls and chopsticks into Chow Yuan's hands, then transformed into a shadow of darkness, instantly vanishing. Although Chow Yuan wanted to follow, his speed was far inferior to Lin Chia's. Besides, he trusted that with Lin Chia's current strength, there shouldn't be any problems. Looking at the dishes in his arms, he sighed helplessly and quietly began putting on an apron. Off work. Yeah, it's so late already. Why is your department still working overtime? Don't even mention it. An hour ago the boss said we need to redo the project. I estimate we won't be able to go home until 3 or 4 in the morning. That slave driver is really disgusting. Alright, you go ahead and leave. I need to get back to overtime work. See you tomorrow. The night grew deeper. In an office building in the center of Beijing, many workers holding briefcases in one hand and coats in the other, gradually crowded toward the elevator. It was now 9:30 p.m. For most companies in Beijing, this was considered an early end to the workday. The surrounding office buildings were still brightly lit, with countless figures sitting in front of computers, holding steaming cups of coffee, slacking off while waiting to clock out. Ding dong. 18th floor. As the elevator doors slowly opened, people squeezed in. Although they worked for the same company, they didn't seem very familiar with each other. They just looked down at their phones waiting for the elevator to descend. Just then, a young woman squeezed into the corner, frowned and suspiciously scanned her surroundings, sniffing something in the elevator. Is something rotting? Why does it smell so bad? She quietly leaned over and whispered to her female colleague with whom she had a good relationship. I smell it too, her colleague's face showed disgust. It's so gross, I feel like I'm going to throw up the milk tea I drank. Bang. As the two were talking, the descending elevator suddenly jolted to a stop. A dull, thunderous sound echoed through the elevator shaft. The lights in the elevator went out instantly and several cries of alarm rang out. What's happening? Is the elevator malfunctioning? This building was just built recently, how did it break down so quickly? Shoddy construction. Don't panic. There's an emergency call button here. The maintenance staff will come rescue us soon. Right, it's just an elevator breakdown. I've been trapped in elevators several times back in my hometown. It's no big deal. Everyone just stand close to the edge of the elevator and find something to hold on to. Will the elevator suddenly fall? The young woman asked worriedly. Don't worry, modern elevators have emergency brakes. Even if it falls, nothing will happen unless... Unless what? Unless it goes up, the male colleague chuckled, lowering his voice slightly. The brakes are designed for falling, but if it really loses control and shoots upward, they say it's certain death. Chiu Chunjun. Do you enjoy scaring young women? The female colleague shouted angrily. Before she could say anything more, the entire elevator suddenly shot upward at an extremely fast speed. In the darkness, almost everyone's face turned pale with fear, especially the man called Chiu Chunjun, whose features twisted in terror. At the same time, an intense stench filled everyone's nostrils. Bang! A sharp tearing sound came from above. The top of the elevator violently split open, creating a jagged gap as fragile as paper. Fierce wind rushed into the elevator. In the dim red emergency light, a strange football-shaped flesh ball slowly extended through the gap, with countless tiny tentacles frantically writhing on its surface. Seeing this, everyone in the elevator stared wide-eyed in horror. Under this indescribably bizarre scene, everyone's sanity was rapidly deteriorating. Ayah! Just as the tentacles were about to touch these people, the ceiling at the top of the elevator shaft suddenly shattered. A war horse engulfed in pale green flames galloped rapidly down the vertical shaft wall toward the rising elevator. On the horse, Chin Han, wearing a military coat, had fierce killing intent flashing in his eyes as he swiftly drew the straight blade at his waist. A flash of the blade, like lightning descending from the sky, struck the back of the monster crawling on top of the elevator. A sharp screech echoed through the elevator shaft. The dark figure's membrane wings spread open behind its back, detaching from the elevator and flying toward Chin Han, who was approaching on horseback. Only now, by the moonlight streaming in from the roof, could Chin Han clearly see the monster's full appearance. It was a pink creature about 2 people tall. From its outer shape, it resembled some kind of crustacean with a pair of insect-like membrane wings growing from its back. Several jointed limbs hung down like thin legs. It had no head, or rather, its head was a football-shaped flesh lump covered in tentacles. Although Chin Han hadn't been a night watchman for very long, he had seen quite a few mysteries in Beijing. But he had never seen such a bizarrely creepy monster before. Just looking at it made him feel uncomfortable all over. Chin Han frowned deeply with no intention of directly fighting this monster, knowing that there were still more than a dozen lives in the damaged elevator below. As Chin Han was preparing to bypass this monster, a shadow suddenly emerged from the darkness. Chin Han was slightly startled when he caught a glimpse of this shadow, then a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Ugh! Terrified screams came from the broken elevator. By now, more than half of the original dozen or so people had fainted the moment the monster poked its head in. The few who remained conscious were paralyzed with fear on the floor. The monster's appearance seemed to have damaged the elevator's braking system. After being grabbed by the monster at the 20th floor, the elevator was now falling, gaining speed. A strong sensation of weightlessness filled everyone's minds. Just then, the elevator body gently shuddered, and its falling speed gradually decreased as if it had landed on cotton. Finally, it stopped steadily at the bottom of the elevator shaft. A figure wearing a deep red cloak materialized out of the darkness. He stood on top of the broken elevator, scanning the few people who were still conscious, and nodded slightly. Good psychological resilience. Now sleep for a while. Lin Chia gently waved his hand, and a patch of darkness swallowed them all. The next moment, they all appeared in the dim stairwell on the first floor, all with their eyes closed as if asleep. After sending away these ordinary people, Lin Chia looked up toward the elevator shaft above, his light golden eyes narrowing slightly. This is truly the aura of Cthulhu. How could such a thing appear in Beijing? His figure flickered and disappeared into the darkness. Clay. The straight blade slashed across the monster's shell, leaving only a faint mark. Chin Han leaped from his warhorse engulfed in green flames, his blade sweeping over the monster's head before landing steadily on the rooftop of the office building. The sharp screech sounded again as the membrane wings rapidly vibrated. The creature also flew up from the elevator shaft, its head covered in writhing tentacles fixated on Chin Han's direction. The flame of life is actually black? Chin Han gripped the straight knife, staring at the black flame dancing above the monster's head, his brows tightly furrowed. What exactly is this thing? It's a Q-system creature. Lin Chia's figure emerged in the night, speaking calmly. Q-system? Chin Han asked in confusion. But this is Beijing, how could there be a Q-system creature here? I'm not sure either. Let's capture it first. Lin Chia raised his palm and made a grasping motion in the air toward the monster flying in midair. The surrounding darkness seemed to come alive, continuously compressing around it. Strands of pitch-black chains wrapped around its shell, attempting to lock down its form. The monster seemed to sense the danger. The tentacles growing on the fleshy tumor of its head writhed frantically, and the membrane-like wing organs began to vibrate at a frequency invisible to the naked eye. With a sound like metal striking metal, its form eerily passed directly through the dark restraints, appearing dozens of meters away. Chin Han was slightly stunned, then spoke in surprise. It can even manipulate space? It's not that it can manipulate space. Lin Chia's eyes were fixed on the constantly disturbed spacetime around the monster. It is a creature from the spacetime rift itself. This spacetime distortion was all too familiar to Lin Chia. Not long ago he and other Daxiao gods were sent directly to the other side of the spacetime wall by a similar spacetime fluctuation. Although this monster's spacetime disturbance ability was pitifully small, it was indeed very similar to the fragments of the key of the door. I was wondering why its aura kept disappearing and reappearing. So it was escaping into the spacetime rift. Lin Chia said coldly. It's trying to escape. Chin Han watched as the monster gradually faded into spacetime, his eyes narrowing slightly. Just as he was about to charge forward with his knife, a shadow had already flashed above the creature. It can't escape. Lin Chia said calmly as the Amino Murkumo sword appeared in his hand, its blade precisely slashing toward the monster's head. A cold flash streaked across the night sky. As Lin Chia's form landed on the ground, the football-shaped fleshy tumor head fell off and rolled to the side. The headless monster was forcibly squeezed out of the space-time gap. It swayed unsteadily in the air for a moment, but surprisingly didn't die. Instead, it vibrated its membrane wings and flew rapidly toward the city below the night sky. It's still not dead? Seeing the monster flying around like a headless fly, Lin Chia immediately raised his hand and pointed in the direction it was fleeing. Darkness formed a cage, instantly imprisoning the monster's form in the air beside a high-rise building's glass wall. Having lost its head, the monster seemed to have lost its ability to disturb space-time. It could only continuously crash against the edges of the cage trying to escape. At the same time, Chin Han whistled and leaped from the top of the high-rise. A battle horse burning with pale green flames suddenly rushed out from behind, steadily catching Chin Han's form, galloping along the vertical side of the high-rise building rapidly toward the dark cage. With his military coat fluttering in the night sky, Chin Han jumped from the back of the battle horse. His straight knife was coated with a layer of netherworld power, flashing in an arc toward the black flame burning on top of the monster's head. In an instant, several blade flashes appeared simultaneously. The reaper-like sharp edge cut through the monster's flame of life. The monster, which had been constantly crashing and struggling in the dark cage, suddenly froze and completely lost its vitality. Whoosh! A netherworld fire ignited in Chin Han's white glove, instantly burning the monster's body to ashes. Now, no matter how tenacious its life force, there was absolutely no possibility of survival. Lin Chia stepped on darkness and slowly approached, looking down at the monster's remains vanishing into nothingness. His expression relaxed a bit. Fortunately, there weren't any casualties. Indeed. Chin Han sighed. However, I'll be busy when I get back. A Q-system creature suddenly appearing in Beijing means I'll be writing reports all night. I hope headquarters can identify what this thing actually is. Anything involving the Q-system is always tricky. Being cautious is never wrong. Lin Chia pointed downward, where several police cars had already arrived at the office building. The people who had fainted in the first-floor corridor had awakened and were frantically describing something to the police, their expressions filled with terror. A large crowd began to gather around. I'll leave the aftermath to you. I need to go. All right, I'll notify you immediately when headquarters responds, Chin Han nodded. Lin Chia's form flickered, and that deep red silhouette disappeared into the night. The appearance of a Q-system creature, although somewhat concerning to Lin Chia, was not a major problem since the monster's strength was only at the level of an ordinary Klein. It wasn't too much trouble for either him or Chin Han. Since the crisis had been resolved, it could only be considered a minor incident. Lin Chia's form crossed the night sky, and just as he was about to return to his temporary residence, he seemed to think of something and slowed down. He looked down at the time and made a quick calculation. Chow Yuan should have finished washing the dishes by now. After confirming that he wouldn't have to continue washing dishes when he got home, Lin Chia directly pushed open the door of his residence. At that moment, a figure suddenly rushed in front of him. Lin Chia looked at the rushing Chow Yuan, his expression froze and he instinctively stepped back. What are you doing? Chia. Qingyu is awake. Seeing Chow Yuan's excited expression, Lin Chia was stunned at first, then his face lit up with joy as he rushed into the room. On the bed, and Qingyu was sitting up, leaning against the pillow. Jiang Er stood by the bed, her expression somewhat dazed. Seeing Lin Chia and Chow Yuan rush in from outside, she didn't show much joy, but rather an indescribable sadness. At this moment, Lin Chia's attention was entirely on Qingyu, and he didn't notice Jiang Er's unusual expression. Qingyu. Lin Chia saw that Qingyu had indeed awakened, and his lips involuntarily curved upward. Qingyu's face was somewhat pale as if he had been through a serious illness. Seeing Lin Chia rush in from outside, he smiled weakly. Chia, is the trouble resolved? Just a minor issue, it was handled quickly. Lin Chia's spiritual power swept over Qingyu's body. After confirming that all bodily functions were still normal, he sighed slightly in relief, stepped to the bedside and asked softly. How do you feel? I feel like I had a very long dream. What kind of dream? I can't really describe it, but that feeling, It was like becoming a weightless ghost floating in the sky, very strange. You've been unconscious for so long, having strange dreams is normal. Lin Chia nodded slightly. Is your body all right? Hearing this question, and Qingyu fell silent. After a moment he slowly opened his cracked lips, forcing a pale smile. Tia. I think I can't feel my legs anymore. Lin Chia stood frozen in place. Can't feel your legs? Lin Chia came back to his senses and immediately scanned his body again with his mental power. That's impossible. Your legs aren't injured, how could you not feel them? I don't know either, but I just can't feel them anymore. And Qingyu's expression was incredibly bitter. Don't worry, you just woke up from a coma. It's normal that your body hasn't fully recovered. I'll have headquarters send someone over soon. No, we'll take you to headquarters for an examination. The equipment there is more comprehensive. Lin Chia spoke very calmly. Lao Chao, go get the car ready, I'll carry Qingyu. Jiang Er, can you fly into the trunk by yourself? Yes, I can. Jiang Er nodded firmly. As Jiang Er's coffin automatically floated up, Chao Yuan grabbed the car keys from the table and quickly walked toward the courtyard. The temporary vehicle used by the Night Curtain team in Beijing was originally prepared by Bailey Pang Pang, spacious enough to seat 7 people and very roomy. Even the trunk had been modified to easily accommodate a coffin. Lin Chia put clothes on in Qingyu and carried him directly to the car. The cold autumn night wind in Beijing was bitingly chilly. And Qingyu, wrapped in a deep red cloak, leaned against Lin Chia's back, watching the red taillights illuminate in the courtyard, his lips slightly pressed together. Chia, he said softly. What if I become a cripple from now on? Lin Chia, who was carrying in Qingyu with large strides, paused and frowned. Why say such nonsense? You're in Qingyu, a monster who could regrow his head if it fell off. How could a pair of legs make you a cripple? Even if your legs really become useless, at worst you'll use a wheelchair. If Jiang Er can lie in a coffin and come all this way with us, even if you sit in a wheelchair, you're still the deputy captain of Night Curtain. No one can replace your position. Lin Chia's voice was incredibly firm in the cold wind. And Qingyu stared at his profile and after a moment smiled helplessly. Let's hope so. The temporary station of the Night Curtain team wasn't far from Beijing headquarters, just over 20 minutes away. The vehicle slowly pulled up at the foot of the headquarters building. Meanwhile, a team of logistics personnel had been waiting at the bottom of the building with a stretcher for a long time. Seeing Lin Chia and the others arrive, they immediately came forward and carefully placed Qingyu on the stretcher, carrying him into the building. Lin Chia had called headquarters on the way, and the logistics and medical departments had already prepared everything. And Qingyu was the deputy captain of the Night Curtain team and a hero of all of Great Xia. He deserved this treatment. Lin Chia, Jiang Er and Chao Yuan stood in the corridor, watching as Qingyu was pushed into the ward. As the ward door closed with a dull sound, the corridor fell into dead silence. Jiang Er, don't worry too much. The Heavenly Venerable said before that damage to the soul would have some aftereffects. It's not a big deal, Lin Chia said to comfort Jiang Er, seeing the concern on her face. Yes, no matter what, the fact that he's awake is the best thing, Chao Yuan added. Jiang Er gave a soft hum and said, I know, no matter what he becomes, I will take good care of him. Lin Chia and Chao Yuan exchanged glances and smiled simultaneously. The three waited in the corridor for over 20 minutes before a figure in a white coat came out through the door. Lin Chia recognized him as the deputy director of the Beijing Logistics Department and one of the top medical talents among the Night Watchers. Dr. Jing, how is he? Lin Chia asked. Dr. Jing opened his mouth with an expression of hesitation and after a while made a pleased gesture. Come in and we'll talk. The three entered the medical room and Dr. Jing took several films from the table and laid them out in front of everyone. We've thoroughly examined him. There's nothing wrong with Deputy Captain An's legs themselves. Nothing wrong? Then why can't he? The reason he can't control his legs is likely because there's a problem with his soul itself, Dr. Jing said seriously. We just used Forbidden Domain to test his soul. But strangely we can't sense the complete picture of his soul. His soul seems different from normal people. I heard about this from the Heavenly Venerable, Lin Chia nodded slightly. We can't fully analyze his soul, so we can't determine exactly where the problem lies. But from the current situation, it seems his soul has undergone some changes, causing errors in controlling his body. This situation is quite tricky because no modern medical methods can affect the soul. We just tried to repair his soul with some special forbidden domain, but it had no effect. His soul is completely immune to any external influence. In this case, even if his physical regenerative ability is strong, or even if we replace his body entirely, it won't completely solve the problem. After hearing Dr. Zheng's explanation, Lin Qie and the others frowned slightly. You mean, his legs can't be treated? Theoretically, yes. Lin Qie's body trembled slightly, and an indescribable sadness appeared in his eyes. However, the problems with him go far beyond this. Dr. Zheng sighed deeply. What do you mean? Lin Qie was stunned. Come with me. Dr. Zheng led the three of them, opening an inner door of the medical room, passing through a corridor and arriving at another enclosed room. The room was simply furnished like a monitoring room, with screens densely arranged on the wall, various medical monitoring machines interconnected, all converging into a central control console. Look at this, Dr. Zheng pointed to a certain screen on the wall. The three turned to look. The screen was monitoring a narrow small room wherein Qingyu and a doctor were sitting on opposite sides of a small table. On the table were several papers with different numbers and symbols, as well as some building block-like objects. What are they doing? Solving problems, Dr. Zheng slowly said. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division calculations, equation and inequality operations, event logic reasoning as well as building block assembly and creation. This project is generally prepared for patients whose brains have been severely damaged and whose consciousness is unclear, to determine whether their brain's thinking function can operate normally. Why are you showing us this? Chao Yuan asked puzzledly. Dr. Zheng sighed, raised his right fingertip, pointed at his own temple and slowly said. Compared to the loss of sensation in his legs, Deputy Captain An's real serious problem is here. What is 1 + 1 = 2? In the narrow room, and Qingyu looked at the serious-faced doctor across from him, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly. Are you joking with me? And Qingyu asked in return. I'm sorry, Deputy Team Leader, and these are all necessary questions to test whether your thinking has been affected. The doctor smiled politely. 2. What is 19 + 18 = 2? And Qingyu frowned slightly, thought for a moment, then answered, 37. What is 21 × 9 = 2? And Qingyu opened his mouth as if about to say something, but suddenly froze in place. His brows furrowed tighter as if he was struggling to think about something, his face full of effort. 5 seconds later he tentatively spoke. 189. Seeing this, the doctor didn't continue with arithmetic but directly changed the question. Suppose there is a class where students are lined up in a row. Whether counting from the left or right, you are in the 15th position. How many students are there in total? There are 30 people. The doctor looked at him deeply. Pumpkin, grape, cucumber, corn, pea, which one is the most special? Most special. And Qingyu thought for a moment. Corn. Why? Because except for corn, all the others grow on vines. Suppose there is a code book where banana apple big pear means Wednesday secret attack, apple sugarcane peach means execute secret plan, orange banana tomato means Wednesday's victory belongs to us, then what does the code big pear mean? And Qingyu fell into deep thought. The doctor nodded slightly, gathered the documents in his hand and pointed to some building blocks nearby. It's okay, I'll give you a diagram later and you can use the blocks to recreate it. Lin Qie and the others watched and Qingyu gradually assembling the blocks on the monitor, standing frozen like stone statues. How is this possible? Chao Yuan spoke in confusion. Those questions even I could answer them. Why can't Qingyu? What was affected by the soul mutation was not just his legs, but also his brain, Dr. Zheng slowly explained. Through our screening questions we found that his perception of the world hasn't been compromised, but his logical reasoning and calculation abilities have been severely damaged, likely a side effect on his soul after performing some extremely massive calculation. Of course, as long as he doesn't need to perform complex calculations, there shouldn't be any problems with daily life. However, Deputy Team Leader An's forbidden curse will likely be affected. Logical reasoning and calculation? Lin Qie murmured. It's worth noting that for the previous and Qingyu, this was absolutely his strong suit. Even calculating Lin Qie and others' spacetime coordinates was something even the Heavenly Venerable couldn't do, But now he had regressed to this state? I think Deputy Team Leader and must have already realized this, Dr. Jing sighed. When we first wheeled him into the ward, he told me he could no longer understand what his ability analyzed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have taken him for cognitive testing so quickly. Lin Chia and the others stood frozen in place. At this moment, Lin Chia suddenly remembered the question Qingyu had asked him on the way here. Having lost his logical reasoning ability, sole correct solution had completely lost its function. He could no longer analyze anything or even actively use abilities he had already analyzed. Combined with the loss of sensation in his legs, in this state he was practically no different from a disabled person. Isn't there any way to cure him? Jiang Er asked anxiously. Dr. Jing shook his head helplessly. I'm sorry, with our current capabilities, we can't even understand the special nature of his soul. There really is no way to treat it. The soul is a person's foundation, not something easily repaired. The three stood in place, looking at the figure calmly assembling blocks on the monitor, as the air fell into dead silence. By the time Lin Chia picked up Qingyu and returned to their residence, it was already late at night. Lin Chia carried Qingyu on his back from the car and walked straight to the room. The cold wind brushed past their hair, and Qingyu's face looked more haggard than before the examination. Qingyu, don't overthink it. Get a good night's sleep tonight and leave everything else to me and Chao Yuan, Lin Chia comforted him while walking. We'll find a way to cure you. Qingyu gave a soft thum, and didn't say much more. Lin Chia placed him back on the bed, gave a few more instructions, then turned to leave. Jiang Er's black coffin automatically floated in from outside the door, but after hesitating for a moment, it quietly floated back out. Half a minute later, Jiang Er's soul form passed through the wall and nestled beside Qingyu. Where's your physical body? Qingyu asked. I put myself under the shed in the yard. Jiang Er lowered her head and said softly. I was afraid that having a coffin in your room would be too inauspicious. Qingyu was stunned, then chuckled lightly. What nonsense are you talking about? We've been like this for so long, haven't we? If having a coffin around was bad luck, I would have died hundreds of times by now. I don't care, I just don't want to see myself tonight. Seeing that he couldn't persuade Jiang Er, Qingyu could only lie down helplessly, staring at the dim ceiling above. Jiang Er leaned against him, the hazy moonlight passing through her ethereal body, as if coating the bedsheet with a layer of frost. Qingyu. In the darkness, Jiang Er's voice suddenly sounded. No matter what happens, I will stay by your side. Qingyu turned his head to look at Jiang Er's pure and determined eyes, feeling somewhat dazed. He virtually stroked Jiang Er's head, made a sound of acknowledgement and slowly closed his eyes. Knock knock knock. Bright sunlight shone through the window onto the floor of the room. Qingyu was awakened by the gentle knocking, opening his eyes groggily. He didn't remember how he fell asleep last night, only that he had been lying in bed like a corpse, staring blankly. In his hazy consciousness he seemed to have started having that dream again. That bizarre dream. Come in. Qingyu supported himself with both hands, sitting up against the wall. The door opened and from the bright living room, Chao Yuan pushed in a large black wheelchair, smiling as he entered Qingyu's room. Qingyu, look what I got for you. Chao Yuan patted the back of the wheelchair, speaking excitedly. The Night Watchman's Logistics Department's specially made combat wheelchair, powered by mental energy, with a top speed of 250 km per hour, and a backup power supply in the back. If you run out of mental energy, it can still run for 2 more hours on electricity. With this, even if you can't walk on your own, you can chase high-speed trains while sitting in a wheelchair. I had them modify it last night. Don't be fooled by its size, it's extremely sturdy. Even carrying you and Jiang Er's coffin won't affect its speed at all. There are special fastening straps under the seat that can secure the coffin to the wheelchair, so it won't fall off due to inertia during high-speed travel. Besides that, it also has 3 built-in parachute systems, a thermal imaging enemy detection device, automatic ejection climbing ropes. Looking at Chao Yuan standing in front of the wheelchair, excitedly talking non-stop, Qingyu froze in place. In short, with this you'll never have to worry about limited mobility again. Chao Yuan finished explaining all the wheelchair's functions in one breath, his eyes incredibly bright. How about it? Want to try it now? Qingyu came back to his senses, a gentle smile appearing on his face as he nodded. Sure, I'll try it right now. With Chao Yuan's assistance, Qingyu sat in the black wheelchair. Just as he was about to try driving it forward, Chao Yuan suddenly spoke. Wait a moment. Qingyu looked up at him in confusion. Chao Yuan reached out, pushed Qingyu from the room into the courtyard, then silently put a protective helmet on Qingyu from under the wheelchair, fastened the safety belt, and after confirming he wouldn't be ejected, nodded, All right, remember to go slowly. Qingyu infused his mental power into the wheelchair and it began spinning rapidly. A powerful propulsion force came from the backrest, carrying Qingyu's body like lightning toward the wall opposite. Qingyu never expected this thing to be so fast. In the blink of an eye, the wall rapidly enlarged before him. He immediately tried to stop the wheelchair, but it was already too late. Bang! A muffled sound rang out as the high wall was forcibly cracked like a spider web. Qingyu and the wheelchair skidded along the ground for several meters before stumbling to a fall. As dust rose around them, Jiang Er saw this scene and immediately cried out in alarm, flying worriedly toward Qingyu. Ha ha ha. At the same time, Chao Yuan couldn't help laughing. Qingyu, I told you to go slowly. Are you trying to demolish the house? Qingyu sat in the wheelchair lying on his back on the ground. Although he had crashed into and shattered the wall, his body showed no signs of injury. Even if he couldn't use his analytical abilities, his level was still there. This degree of impact posed absolutely no threat to Qingyu, a half-step to being humanity's ceiling-level powerhouse. He lay on the ground, staring blankly at the white clouds drifting overhead. After a while he suddenly started laughing. Ha! Interesting. Let's go again. Qingyu infused mental power into the wheelchair and suddenly flipped up from the ground. The gloom and dejection that had been on his face had mostly disappeared. Since waking from his coma until now, this was the first time he had shown such a pure smile. Jiang Er, who was about to come over to help Qingyu, suddenly froze in place. Watching Qingyu zoom across the courtyard in the wheelchair and crash into another wall, the concern in Jiang Er's eyes gradually dissipated. As Qingyu and Chao Yuan's laughter continued, she couldn't help but laugh lightly too. The three of them played wildly in the courtyard all morning. Covered in dust, Qingyu finally mastered the operation of the wheelchair. He lazily lay in it sunbathing when, as if remembering something. By the way, has Seven Knight woken up yet? He flew to the abstinence place last night, saying he wanted to kidnap a doctor to come check on you. Chao Yuan looked at the position of the sun, calculating the time he should be arriving soon. Just as the two were talking, the main door of the residence slowly opened, and Lin Chia entered from outside with a man wearing a white coat and black-framed glasses. What happened here? Did bandits break in? Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly as he looked at the exaggerated cracks on several walls. There was a little accident. Chao Yuan scratched his head. Never mind. Let me introduce you. This is Dr. Li from Sunshine Mental Hospital. Qingyu, you should have met him before. Dr. Li, standing behind Lin Chia, smiled slightly and extended his hand. Deputy Captain N, your Captain Lin has gone to great lengths for you. I was still sleeping in bed when somehow I found myself on his cloud somersault. If we're talking about bandits, your Captain Lin is the real bandit. Qingyu shook hands with Dr. Li, his expression somewhat awkward. He and Chao Yuan looked at Lin Chia simultaneously. So when you said you were going to kidnap someone, you literally meant kidnapping? Fortunately, Dr. Li had a very friendly personality. Although he had been kidnapped, he showed no resentment and patiently diagnosed Qingyu's condition. Like taking a pulse, he placed his fingers on Qingyu's wrist for a long time, seemingly sensing something. After a moment, Dr. Li's brows furrowed slightly, his expression somewhat strange. How is it? Lin Chia asked. Dr. Li hesitated for a moment before saying, strange. Deputy Captain An's soul is different from normal people's. It's like it's wrapped in fog and I can't see through it. Hearing this answer, Lin Chia's expression became solemn. Sure enough, even Dr. Li couldn't fully understand Qingyu's condition. Such a strange soul I've never seen before. Dr. Li shook his head. I'm sorry, in this situation I can't help either. Lin Chia and the others fell silent. However, regarding the computational overload aftereffects you mentioned earlier, I do have several medications, but those are effective for ordinary souls. I can't guarantee they'll work for Deputy Captain N. Anyway, I'll have someone send them to you shortly. You can try them first, and if there are any abnormalities later, just call me directly. Dr. Li's subsequent words brightened everyone's spirits. Thank you, Dr. Li. A look of joy appeared on Lin Chia's face. No matter what, this was good news for Qingyu. I'll take you back right away. No need. Dr. Li waved his hand. I happen to have some business at headquarters. I'll fly back after I finish. Your cloud somersault is too fast, I can't handle it. Dr. Li said goodbye to Lin Chia and the others, then walked directly toward the night watchman headquarters. The courtyard became quiet again. Lin Chia and Qingyu exchanged glances, and the latter smiled helplessly. 7 Night don't go around kidnapping people anymore. Since both the night watchman and the venerable one say there's no solution, even if you brought all the doctors in the world, it would be futile. As long as there's a possibility, we have to try. Besides, didn't Dr. Li provide some medication? Lin Chia watched Dr. Li's departing figure, pondering for a moment before muttering, since medical science can't cure it completely, then we can only rely on. Rely on what? On a miracle. Lin Chia took a deep breath. Look, if I can cure something that even the venerable one and modern medicine can't handle, wouldn't that be a kind of miracle? Back then my mortal divine domain could heal wounds left by the Kusanagi sword. Perhaps it can cure you now. Right. I almost forgot about that ability. Chao Yuan's eyes lit up. As Lin Chia spoke, he walked step by step toward Qingyu and slowly crouched down. Then give it a try. Qingyu, sitting in the wheelchair, said seriously, I'm ready. Lin Chia nodded, rapidly consuming mental power as a pale golden domain quickly expanded in the courtyard. The moment this domain enveloped Qingyu, his body suddenly trembled in the wheelchair. His pale face twisted slightly, his expression seemingly pained. How is it? Lin Chia hurriedly asked. Qingyu's brows furrowed tighter and he shook his head, speaking hoarsely in a low voice. I feel some pain,